now. We talk about all other sports in the New Orleans area, from the Pelicans to the Saints and beyond, with our good and great friend Fletcher Mackel of WDSU. Fletcher, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for the time and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Ken.
Well, we're starting to get some sort of semblance of what's going to happen with professional sports. The NHL, I think, has outlined something that looks good to me. I think they've done something, frankly, that's pretty smart and is going to work. And they've picked locations, it would appear, as well. The NBA, I thought as of yesterday, and I've said all along, Adam Silver runs the best league in terms of commissioners or executive directors or whatever you want to call them. Now I'm starting to wonder what's going on because, as you saw today, there is the realistic possibility of that league not playing games until August. And is it really worth resuming at that point if you're not going to conclude a season until, say, at least September, given the fact that you normally start a preseason in October?
Yeah, no, my thing is this. Look, I love the NBA. I always joke that I love covering nothing more than the NBA, and I really want them to return. And I have hard feelings and opinions about what they should do and how they should do it. If they are not going to resume until early August, they should punt on the season. That's one of the more insane things that I've heard. I mean, right now we're still in May. That means you're going to go through all June and all July before you play one meaningful game. And even if they just started right into the playoffs take 7 full weeks to play. That means you don't end until the beginning of October. And if the goal is to start on Christmas Day, I mean, what are the teams that made it to the championship get 3 weeks off before they start training camp again? So to me, I could see starting in July and ending in early September, around Labor Day or the second week of September. When I saw start in August, I thought, man, oh man, what happens if you do that play-in tournament that they're discussing for a week or two? How late does this go? I understand that we are dealing with an unprecedented once-in-a-lifetime situation. I understand that safety comes first. I understand all of these things. I don't understand early August resuming when other leagues, the Women's Soccer Professional League is going to start in June. NASCAR's up. Major League Baseball, if they can get out of their own way, will start around the 4th of July. I don't get it. It's August. I was blown away by that. That made me think this probably just isn't worth doing that. And that if you can't get it together before August, it may not be worth getting together. Just punt and say, let's refocus and come back bigger and better next year.
And I do not disagree with that at all. I had this conversation with our peer Ed Daniels about a week and a half ago and 2 weeks ago, and he wrote something for our website that said that they should just cancel the rest of the season, and he got a lot of flack for it. Now he's starting to look a little bit prophetic given these circumstances. Of course, at that time, we all thought that they were going to be playing, certainly in July, and that now doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah, again, and look, I actually like some of the ideas. Like, one, I think they should just go into the playoffs, 16 teams, because to me, all of these, let's try this and let's try that, this isn't an experiment. This is a horrible situation where people have died and lives have been affected and the economy has crashed and people have lost work. This is let's just finish a season so we can have some sense of normalcy. So I think we should just go right into the playoffs, bring everybody back in the beginning of June, get everybody back to playing in the beginning of July, and resume everything around Labor Day, right before football starts, we crown a champion, and we move on. That is the cleanest, easiest thing to me. I'm not opposed to, I thought it was interesting, the Eastern Conference teams, the 8 Western Conference teams, and then bring 9, 10, and 11, or 9, 10, 11, and 12 from the West, since they're all still in it and vying for a chance, and let them have a play-in tournament, or 8, 9, 10, 11, and let those 4 teams have a little play-in tournament. I'm for that. And again, if they can get it off the ground in early July, I'm all for it. But I just don't know. And it don't even get me started on going to Disney. Major League Baseball may play all 30 teams at their home parks. Training camps will start for 32 teams, and those we assume, at the end of July. So the craziness with the NBA starting in August, another facet of it, and I know I can go off on tangents here, is so Major League Baseball potentially could have been back for a month playing in 30 venues, no fans, but their home parks. 32 NFL teams will start training camp at the end of July, even if it's without fans, in their home facilities. But the NBA can't start until August, and they have to go to a bubble. But the bubble is Disney that is going to open in June. Again, I love the NBA. I think Adam Silver is the best commissioner in all of pro sports. I love the fact that they are on the forefront of social issues and the forefront of expanding the game globally. But I've heard a lot of bad things the last couple of weeks that I don't like about the NBA. That makes me scratch my head.
Fletcher Mackel with us from WDSU, and I concur with that also. With regard to Major League Baseball, two things here, and it works both positively and negatively, but the latter is certainly more applicable, and that is the fact that MLB has always had the strongest and the most effective players union. We know that. We've seen it time after time with the kind of money that they've been able to get for themselves, the way they've been able to have work stoppages and get where they want to get. The players have the power because their union is terrific and they have good leadership. They always have, dating back to Marvin Miller. And yet, right now is not the time to be bickering over money, considering what people are suffering with and dealing with in their own financial lives with jobs and a lack of income. The general public will not appreciate that at all. Major League Baseball is still popular. There were 5 teams that drew over 3 million fans last year, and going down to 18 teams that drew over 2 million, and the preponderance drawing 25,000 or more in opening. So it's still a very viable, popular sport. But given the circumstances in a depressed economy, in a difficult situation with people hesitant to go to games in the first place, given the opportunity to do so, if they can't reach a financial agreement and don't play, God forbid, this year, how much damage would that do to Major League Baseball in 2021?
I think it would do irreparable harm that would affect them for years and years to come. Look, I remember, and I know you remember better than I do, when I was growing up, baseball was king of kings. I mean, baseball was it. Football, basketball, they were never on the same playing field as baseball. Everybody loved baseball. You know, those Braves team, the Superstation, TBS, WGN, the first Superstations had baseball to the entire country. It was fantastic. But football has passed everybody up, and football is now the king of kings. And basketball is firmly entrenched at second right now when it comes to overall, financial success, TV contracts, worldwide appeal. Baseball has fallen into third. I mean, they're still in front of hockey and Major League Soccer, but they're in third place right now. To me, I go back to 94, and I know the situation was different, but because of a labor battle, they canceled the World Series, and it took it in to 1995. Well, that sport didn't regain the same financial footing until the summer of 98, which we're about to see a documentary on here coming up on Sosa and McGuire. But it took 95, 96, and 97 for them to build back up. And you're right. I heard Jeff Passan, the baseball writer, say something that was great. With what is going on right now in the world, with people out of work and being furloughed, in unemployment numbers at record levels right now, do we really want to hear that Mike Trout will go from making $30 million to making $9 million this year? No, we don't. And so to me, look, you're in an entertainment business. If you can't entertain the fans in public, and that's the good and the bad of the Major League contract. Major League salaries are not tied to a portion of the total earnings like basketball and football. The NFL owners and players almost have to work together because their labor agreements say the players get a certain percentage of this. Major League Baseball has never had that. So it's a precarious situation, and it has benefited them. You talked about how strong they are and how much money there is. But in situations like this, they may have to be the bigger people and say, for the greater good, our people have to do what's right. And I think, look, a friend told me today, 65%, I think, of major leaguers, make less than $1 million or around $1 million. Those guys are going to want their money because even if they're making $400,000, that's a lot of money to people. And the other option is zero. So to me, I would just be blown away. And I think to answer your question in a very long-winded way, Major League Baseball would do irreparable harm and continue down a path of third place behind football and basketball if they can jump over every health hurdle and get back in their stadiums. But the reason they don't play is because, to use a cliche, the billionaires and the millionaires can't figure out how to split up the money while the rest of America suffers. The harm they would do, to me, would be catastrophic, and it would be something that they have nobody to blame but themselves.
Fletcher Mackel with us for a few more minutes. Of course, where the Saints are concerned, the preseason schedule out. The good news there is that they don't play a home game until late August, their first home game. So the odds, the more time you can buy, the more chance there's going to be to have not only some people in the stands, but more people in the stands. Anybody that says they know right now what's going to happen is a liar. I don't think any of us has any idea. We can speculate. I've seen 1,000 things. I've talked to people that are in the know, including an NFL staffer, including a Saints staffer, and nobody really seems to know at this point how it's going to work. The only thing we know is that football is going to be played barring a massive development. Football will be played on every level, and certainly on the professional level, if not the college level, there will be fans to some degree, but what it's going to look like and how many, I don't have any idea. Can you shed any light on that, or do you have a different opinion?
No, look, my opinion is if we stay on the course that we're on right now, knock on wood, I know here in New Orleans we flattened the curve, and I know other states are doing better right now. I do think there will be football. But you're right. Here's the thing. What happens if there's some horrific spike in August again? Then I don't know. So I agree with you. I hated the doomsday bros, as they were nicknamed, the people who in April were saying we won't have any sports until 2021, because I thought, how can you know in April how this is going to unfold? And then the people now who are saying we'll be back to normal in September, no problem whatsoever. I pause on that a little bit too and try to find some common ground. I think the path that we are on right now shows that sports are coming back, that obviously professional leagues are returning, and at some point fans will be back. I certainly hope the numbers continue to go down and it is safe enough, say in September, for fans to return wearing masks or making sure that they are healthy to professional football games. So I'm optimistic that we have fans in the stands starting in September. I know we're going to have sports starting this summer, and I know we're going to play the games, and they'll be televised, obviously. But fans in the stands, I'm cautiously optimistic for the fall. But like you said, I'm not a doctor, and I certainly don't have any answers. But I'd like to be cautiously optimistic that in September we could see fans returning if the numbers continue to go in the right direction.
And finally, before we let you get away, of course, I reported yesterday about schools in the New Orleans area apparently violating the stay-at-home order and the inability to gather on campus to prepare for the upcoming football season. And now that number has grown around the state to as many as 10, including apparently 2 more locally that will go unrecognized in terms of names right now. And the fact of the matter is the LHSA will reveal that in due time, because they're going to convene their executive committee next week to meet on this and then bring those that are alleged to have violated this before the executive committee. That plan is for June 24th. We see these kind of things happen, I guess infrequently would be the right word, and yet in this situation you can almost see it coming, because some schools actually asked the question back on May 15th of the LHSAA, what would happen if we did have people come on campus and violated this? And why that question would be asked in the first place is beyond me. And we can agree or disagree whether people should be able to get together in small groups or even together and apart. And I understand why people feel that way, and I sympathize with them, and I don't necessarily disagree on some circumstances, but rules are rules. And when you're given an edict and you're given 11 principles about what will happen to you if you violate it, it looks to me like this isn't going to be a slap on the wrist when the information comes out. If, in fact, schools are guilty, there's going to be some severe penalties here.
Well, no, and look, and you were good enough to do an interview with us, and we ran some of your sound bites at 5 and 6, and we'll have more with what you told us at 10 o'clock. But, look, I agree with what you say 100%, because this isn't I mean, this is a life and death like situation. You're talking about a pandemic where if any of these young people pass it to each other, one of them could pass it to a grandparent or somebody who has a compromised immune system, and it could lead to greater problems. So this is something that's far more serious than just a dead period, so to say, when teams shouldn't be practicing. You're talking about, a global pandemic in the spirit of what's right. People should be following the rules. But something you said today that I thought was really good and tempered, because I always try to find, some middle ground on things, was what are these violations? Is it 2 students who showed up in a weight room and made a mistake? Or is it, like you said, 15, 20, 30 kids getting together with an assistant coach, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, at a public park to have an organized practice? And so until, to use your term, until we know the crime, we can't kind of talk about the penalty. But I do think if people egregiously went off the reservation, so to say, and did things that were knowingly wrong, then I would hope that this is the opportunity in the case that the LHSAA takes no mercy and throws the book at them, so to say.
Right, and the kids will be the ones that suffer because they're not the guilty parties. But if they have video and pictures, as was told to me by the executive director, then that can be damning. Stay tuned. Fletcher, Mackel, thank you so much for the time. We'll be watching tonight at 10 on WDSU. Keep doing the great job that you do in your mid-city home.
Thank you, Ken. I know I laughed, but hopefully we'll all be back to normal. I know you're at home as well. And so, I've been 2 months at home here now. So hopefully as things start getting back to normal, we'll all be moving back into our studios.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.